Okay. What I'm going to do is give the full update so that I can clip this and save it to the channel. So I'm going to give an update from the start of the day all the way up until I left Wyatt at the hospital. So here we go. All right, so I took Wyatt to the ER this morning-ish. He had some concerning symptoms, like he was very tired, he didn't want to eat anymore, and he had a dark purple nose. All of those things were worrisome for maybe a heart problem. So the ER doctor did an ultrasound on his heart and discovered a pretty severe enlargement on the right side of his heart. She recommended that he see a cardiologist, and the hospital where we were, although they have many different specialties, they do not currently have a cardiologist. So she referred us to another ER hospital with a cardiologist available. So we drove him up there. He ended up having an echocardiogram done, and what was discovered was frankly rather distressing. They said that Wyatt was in heart failure. He has a significant enlargement in that right half of his heart. He both, I don't remember the technical terms. He also had pulmonary hypertension, very high, which means high blood pressure. And what was happening was, because of the high blood pressure, it was actually causing this enlargement of his heart and causing the heart failure. So most likely the heart condition is secondary to the recurring or long-term aspiration pneumonia that he's been suffering. So when they obviously when he has aspiration pneumonia, he's not getting full breaths, he's not getting full amounts of oxygen when he breathes, and so the long-term repercussion can affect the heart, and they believe that that's what has happened. There's another possibility that he was born with some kind of congenital defect in his heart. That's not out of the realm of possibility, but in order for them to determine whether this is congenital, whether this is due to the aspiration pneumonia, they have to perform different kinds of tests that require sedation. So it goes back to, he's too small to have anesthesia, it's not worth the risk, and so we can't say right now why he's in heart failure, but we can sort of surmise that it's probably due to the aspiration pneumonia. the treatment, after we were done with the cardiologist, they recommended that we hospitalize him and get him on oxygen, get him on an IV diuretic, and so they offered, we could hospitalize them there, or we could take him back to the original ER and have him hospitalized where he has been hospitalized, every time in the past. So we opted to go back to the hospital where they know him. The doctors all know him. The nurses all know him. They're all very familiar with his case. So we drove him back to that ER. Of course, they were in touch with the cardiologist and what the cardiologist recommended as far as treatment goes. So when we got back to the original ER to hospitalize him, he at that point was in a pretty bad state. I was very worried. He could barely keep his eyes open. He couldn't even really keep his head up. It was distressing to see him like that. And so, they took him back to the ICU, put him in the oxygen tank, got him hooked up with the IV. And I left to come back here to get all of his medications and food. I hadn't packed that originally, so I needed to come back and get all of that stuff, his eye meds and all of that. So I came back here. Of course, you saw me bottle feed the babies, and then I packed everything up, wrote out instructions on how to care for Wyatt, and headed back up to the hospital. So on my way back up to the hospital, I was driving. I was on the highway, and I get a call from Wyatt's doctor at the ER. And she's very serious, and she says, I am very concerned. I don't think he's going to make it through the night. He is breathing really heavy. He, is lethargic. She tried to stand him up. He just fell right over. She said, I don't know what you want to do, if you want to keep him here or if you want to take him home, essentially, to have him pass here with me. So I said, well, I am driving. I'm on my way right now to the hospital. Can I see him before I make this decision? Can I just see him and make a decision after that? I really needed to see him the way she was describing before I decided to stop treatment. And so, I was about 20 minutes away. She said, sure, absolutely, come visit. And so I got there, 15, 20 minutes tops later. I was sobbing, screaming. I was having a complete meltdown the whole drive. I showed up in the lobby, tears streaming down my face. I'm trying to talk to the front desk to describe I'm here to see Wyatt. I, could barely talk. And so the front desk calls back, and a couple minutes later, Wyatt's doctor walks out, and she says, well, he's taken a turn for the better. And I was like, what? She says, yeah, he just, rebounded, is now sitting up, eyes alert. She actually gave him a little bit of food, and he was hungry and he ate some food. I was like, what is happening? You know, this is crazy. And so she brought me back to where he is, and I walk up, you know, he's in the oxygen cage, and he's sitting up, his tongue is going like crazy. I said, oh, if that means he's hungry, he does it when he's hungry. And she said, yeah, I gave him a little bit of food, and like his tongue's been going ever since. I said, he's hungry, that's what that means. I reached in to pet him. He was, he was pushing against my hand. He wanted to be petted. I mean, he was like fully, honestly, I wouldn't have even known anything was wrong with him if I had just seen him like that. I would have been like, we could go home right now. He's fine. I cannot believe that within 15 to 20 minutes, he went from his doctor saying he's not going to make it through the night to him acting totally normal Wyatt, tongue going, wanting food. I mean, talk about miracle rebounds, guys. I don't even know how to describe like the feeling of what happened. So she asked if I wanted to feed him. Of course they would do it if I wanted, but I was like, no, I would love to feed him. So I had to keep him in the oxygen tank, and they have a little hole that you can open up. And so, it's really only about this big, and I had to fit both my hands in there, one to support his head and one with the syringe. So it was awkward, but I was able to, I mixed up his food, put it in the syringe. He was happily eating. I fed him quite a bit, at least a quarter of the can. And he ate it all up. He probably would have kept eating. I just didn't want to overdo it. But his appetite was like fully back. And so I hung out with him for a little longer. I was petting him, and he was rolling around on his back at one point, and he was like kicking at my feet. He has the IV in his paw, which he doesn't like. So he kind of, he fights that a little bit, but they have not yet put that soft cone around him yet. So hopefully he doesn't mess with his IV and he can stay coneless. Because he's certainly more comfortable without that cone. But I left all his meds. I left his food. I left his syringe. I left the instructions. And I left him in really good hands, you guys. When I left, his tongue was still going. He was still licking his lips from eating. And I got some video and pictures of him at the hospital after he was feeling good that I'll share with you guys. But that is the update. So what a roller coaster. This boy is going to wear my heart out with all the ups and downs that he puts us through. But I'll tell you, I left there feeling really good. I know that, he's still in a tenuous place. He can still flip very quickly. You see how fast he recovers, but just as fast, he can go downhill. So, I don't want anyone to have sort of a false belief that he's totally out of the woods. He's still in a serious condition, but certainly seeing the improvement within a matter of a half hour really gives me a lot of hope that he will respond to the medications and respond to the oxygen treatment. And at least, you know, we can get him to the place where he's stable and possibly come home. So, you know, long-term prognosis, nobody knows with Wyatt. You know, every time we think we're getting to like a stable place with him and he starts gaining weight, you know, we have some big setback. And, you know, I don't, nobody can say, what Wyatt's future looks like, but I can tell you that he is not done fighting. He is definitely still in it to live it, and I will keep fighting for him, you know, as long as he shows that he's not ready to go yet. So so that's mostly it. As far as like him recovering from the heart failure, so, you know, it's what he has, where his whole right side of the heart is enlarged, is actually very rare, and it's even rarer in cats. So sometimes dogs can get this condition. It's even rare in dogs, but it's mostly treated in dogs when it happens. It almost never happens in cats. So of course Wyatt is one of the, you know, 1% or less than 1% of cats who come down with this. So the medication, one of the medications that's used to treat it is not even made in a dose for a cat. It's all, you know, assuming that they're dog size. So we have to have that compounded. So we're waiting on one medication that we should get tomorrow from the pharmacy. But you know, but he's on the Lasix, he's on which is a diuretic, he's on oxygen, and of course he's still on all the meds for his pneumonia. So we gotta just I asked if his heart failure is reversible, and the answer is in most cases no, but it is possible, and especially if the aspiration pneumonia and pulmonary issues can resolve or at least get better, then the chance of his heart problem getting better increases quite a bit. So I really think that, you know, when it comes to Wyatt, we can't ever write off, you know, slim chance of things. He somehow beats the odds over and over again. I personally have, you know, witnessed at least 3 times where he's been on the brink of death and rebounded. So, you know, definitely don't give up hope in this kid. I think that's all my update. So I will take questions if anybody has questions. I am going to save this right after I leave. Make sure that I do that. So let me know if I did not answer anything. Keep on meeping on. That's right. Perfect timing for people to start getting their Wyatt shirts today. No, they did not do a chest x-ray. They're not, you know, he's not there because of the pneumonia. He's not struggling. Well, until this like one little episode where he was breathing deep, but in general, his respiratory rate is normal. He's not having trouble breathing. So there's really no reason to check his chest yet. He does have a recheck with that where he'll get x-rays in a week, next Wednesday. But as of right now, I don't think there's any reason to do it right now. So the diuretic he's on is Lasix, and I did not catch the name of the other heart mid. I don't even know if it's in the notes that I have. I'm not sure. So I'll have to look that up, or I'll tell you tomorrow when I actually get it. Emmy, I hope your cat's doing all right. I love the idea of you guys all wearing your Wyatt shirts, especially wearing them tomorrow. Keeping them in your mind and thoughts. The main thing that needs to happen for him to come home is for him to be able to wean off oxygen. That's typically the thing that keeps him in the hospital. So the estimate that they gave me today was him being hospitalized through Sunday. Their goal is to get him off oxygen by Sunday. Of course, that's just an estimate, but that's what we're shooting for. Jasper, I'm not sure who you're asking has asthma issues. Wyatt does not have asthma issues. Why does Wyatt get aspiration pneumonia? That is a question I think we would all love the answer to. If we knew what was causing it, we would certainly do something about it. But I will say that, you know, there's several theories, none of which we can nail down right now. One is, you know, that his glottis, which is the material in your throat that closes your larynx, so that when you swallow, food doesn't go down the wrong pipe. And, you know, one theory is that there's something malfunctioning about his glottis and it's not closing properly. The only way to determine if that's the case is for him to do a swallow test. In order to do a swallow test, he needs to be able to eat on his own from a bowl without any assistance. And we're just not there. So that's, plus he's also probably too small for it. So we don't know if that's the case. The other thing that could be happening or could have been happening is when he was eating from a spoon and from a bowl, he was getting food on his nose, and it is possible that he was inhaling that food. I've heard sort of differing opinions from various doctors as to whether that would actually be significant enough to cause the aspiration pneumonia, but I don't think we can rule that out. I think it's a possibility. So thinking along those lines, I have switched him entirely to syringe feeding so that he doesn't get any, there's no chance of him getting it up his nose. And so, you know, I'm hoping that maybe that's a simple answer and, you know, it'll prevent it. But, yeah, I don't know. There's no real simple answer to that. The new incubator I do have a oxygen generator, but an oxygen generator that you hook up to an incubator is not nearly the high percentage that you get in the oxygen tank enclosure they have at the ER. So it would not work for me to do that at home. The B12 definitely did not hurt him. I did eat today. Let's see. Is something wrong with Wyatt? Yes, Shadow. You need to go back and watch the whole update. Wearing your shirt to bed is just as good as wearing it out. So, I love everybody wearing their shirt for sure. Yeah, if the heart failure doesn't reverse, I don't know. I have an appointment with a cardiologist for him, not this Friday, but the following Friday. So I feel like, you know, if he gets through this, he's going to have some kind of cardiology recheck. So we'll kind of take it from there. Yeah, that's right, Brenda. Until he's big enough. We just can't do a lot of the tests. But, you know, I mean, he was gaining quite a bit. We were on a really good roll where he was gaining quite a bit until we hit this snag. So, you know, I feel hopeful that he'll pull through this and we'll get back on track and we'll start gaining again. And, you know, it might take us a while to get there, but, you know, somehow we're doing it. We keep making it through and he's getting bigger. All right. All right, I think our questions have dwindled. Thank you for being along on this ride with me. No news is good news, so please hope that I get no phone calls overnight. I don't want any phone calls. We just want him to have nothing significant happen overnight. All right. Thank you very much for the CC, Benji. And thanks, everyone. All right.